I am Sylvia Mweni Kasanga. I'm an architect by profession, 20 years practice and still practicing. I'm also an arbitrator, I'm a dispute resolver. I've been dispute resolving for almost 15 years now. I'm very happy about it. And I'm actually venturing into international dispute resolution as well. Africa needs a lot of dispute resolvers. At 17 Losai, I consider myself the developer. It's going to be the first development in my 20-year career as an architect to work now, not as a consultant, but as the developer. I've done several big projects. Actually, I've created brands for a lot of our clients over a period of, say, 15 years, where we've had a brand grow from its first project, maybe to its fourth or fifth project with one particular client. And that's one thing I'm very proud of, because we've had retention of clients. So you'll find brands like Lifestyle. You'll see them in Mlolongo, where they started as Lifestyle Gardens and moved to Lifestyle Heights and moved to Lifestyle Signature and moved to Lifestyle Apartments, which you'll find at Tatu City, which is almost a 3 or 4 billion worth project, low cost or medium cost housing project, which is something we're very proud of, having seen a developer begin and grow to the level that Lifestyle has grown. And we've been part and parcel of all those projects, right from inception through to sales, to the end of sales, through branding and even after sales services, which I consider quite an achievement in my 20-year career. The other brand I can speak of is Lemark. You'll see Lemark, we started with Mark Apartments, then moved to Mark Gardens, and then moved to Lemark, which is also another 3.5 billion project at its time. Today, Lemark would probably be, with inflation and the change in the dollar shilling rates, today Lemark would be almost 6 billion worth of a project, something we are very proud of. It has changed the skyline of Nairobi. We've done institutional projects also over the years. We've done Lukenya University and Lukenya Schools, and Wood Creek Schools is something we are very proud of. Part of it from inception through to the branding of it, and it still continues to grow, because most institutions grow in phases. So you find that we are still part and parcel of the progress of an institution to the state. So I can speak on some of those. Lemark grew out of first a client who knew what they wanted. I think you can understand that currently we're in a market space where a lot of our developers know what they want, because the market opened up, people travel a lot. In fact, you find many of our clients are so well traveled. Our client knew what he wanted. And to help us open our minds, we took a tour in Dubai. We were actually in Dubai for a whole week. We went a whole team. He facilitated a whole team, and we went alongside with himself and his fellow developers. And we visited quite a number of sites at that time. That was back in 2008 when that exercise happened. And we came back and we started our design process that took almost, you can call it a year of design work. I mean, it's a big project with a lot of elements to consider. Choosing of the rest of the design team, of course, took time, because you have to be sure you have the right engineer who can handle such size of a project. You have the right services engineers, very critical, and of course the QS. So it was very labor intensive in terms of design, but it was very fulfilling being the first of its kind during our time. And also with the skyline in 2008, it was amongst the first ones to come, that is a glass building. It was also a learning process for us. We were really challenged. The client really challenged us. And in fact, we were very honored, because whereas he could have possibly gone for somebody more experienced in terms of architecture, I think because we had grown with him from his first project in Mark Gardens and then Mark Apartments, he felt very strongly that we are the right consultants for him on the architectural space. But we had to arm ourselves with a very strong civil structure engineer, very strong services engineer at that time, and a very strong QS, and then a lot of research work. And we, like I'm saying, we employed very new technologies in the Mark. You find that the basement itself, which was excavated almost 16 meters down, and when you excavate and you find a lot of spring water, and you wonder, what do we do with the spring water? And you have to sit with the engineer and figure out, how can we harness the spring water? And the services engineer, the structure engineer, in civil side, he figures out how to tap this water, through a connection of French drains and actually tap it into an underground water tank, which went ahead to become the construction water for the project. To this day, Lemak has an underground water tank that is fed from spring water from the excavation that we did. And one other beautiful thing that I have to speak of, it's probably the only building at the moment you will see that has an automated parking system in its underground. So you find that the basements, we did them with heights that are a little exaggerated to allow for an automated parking system that is 3-tier and 2-tier, so that we could accommodate the parking needs for almost 200 apartments that are inside that, and the ground floor level. And the first 5 levels, which are commercial, are accommodated for on the ground floor level and first floor level parking. So there were a lot of new things that came with Lemak that we learned about, and a lot more that I could speak to. Perception that Kenyans, we are not able to deliver quality, high quality stuff. We are not able to deliver good construction. And that is a perception that I want to change. Actually, I'll assure you there's none of the projects that I've handled in the last 20 years of my career that you can question the quality of it. We have been very careful with our supervision. We don't joke around with it. Our selection of contractors has also been absolutely careful, with a lot of due diligence that is done. None of our sites have we chased a contractor away because of the level of due diligence and the managing of the contract as well. So, you know, you have to foresee. Usually you have to foresee when you can see challenges arising, when you see conflict arising, and as architect we would deal with it. In fact, that is part of the reason why I ventured into dispute resolution as an added advantage into my contract administration of architectural work, because I realized as an architect, you have to be able to foresee challenges that are coming, and you should be able to mitigate them. Because having to deal with a conflict in the middle of a construction can cost both the client and the contractor a lot of losses. So we've learned how to mitigate. And with that, we've learned how to churn out quality after quality. I can assure you that skyline glass walk is 100% solid. A lot of people have already worked on it. I have worked on it. My daughters have worked on it. I will do it again. There's never been any issue. The glass itself, its production, we were part and parcel of monitoring its production and its quality. Those are some of the things that we learned to do when we were working at Lemak. So I want to assure Kenyans, you can be sure that Lemak is solid. Anything else that I have handled that has my name attached to it will be solid, and it will be of great quality. And more so, because we have learned how to tie in the nuts and the bolts and dot the I's and the T's, I believe it's an opportunity to showcase to Kenyans what I can do as a developer with all the experience that I have garnered. I also want to showcase to Kenyans, because we're in the advent of affordable housing. Just because it is at a certain price tag does not mean it needs to look cheap or feel cheap. Even that person buying at that price tag deserves the dignity of beautiful space, beautiful architecture. And with 17 Losai, we want to change the skyline in Ngara. And we are going to do it. We have done the numbers. They are very tight, but they are going to be doable. They are going to be good. The people who live in those apartments will actually feel that they are living not in Ngara, but whatever other affluent address you can think of, because the quality will definitely speak for itself. Public service is public service. That's what it is. And it's a space to make a difference and make change. And I used that platform to push several things in the built environment. We pushed several things with our mother association, the Architecture Association of Kenya, just to make the space for architects make a little bit more sense in some areas that were not quite clear. That's something we did at that time. There was a defects liability issue with the regulations that had been rolled out, and we had to stop those, because then they would have made contract administration very difficult. Those are some of the things you can do while you're in that space. But largely it's public service. And I ran with mental health because it's a space that affects a lot of us. A lot of architects, I've watched colleagues suffer from mental health, because the work of an architect is very high pressure work. And many times getting paid is a challenge. So you're working hard and you're working tirelessly, long hours, and you have to chase after your pay in a way that you're not even sure how to chase after the pay. So it's become a very difficult space for a lot of architects, and it takes a toll on their mental health. And even though I say it's about architects and their mental health, really mental health affects everybody. It's something I realized, and I used the platform in Parliament to push for legislation and begin to change the space on how governance of mental health in Kenya is done, and have budgets done and more awareness raised and fighting of the stigma. So it's an incredible space where you have a lot of powers and privileges, but well utilized can make significant change in the lives of the citizens. The way to multitask in the profession is to have partners who are reliable. I have very good partners. I have partners in the architectural space who are architects. I have very close partnerships with engineers, services engineers, people who I can call on to, people who are reliable, people who've been in the industry probably as long as I have been or even longer with very good experience. Those help things move very smoothly. So even when we have queries and we have issues, calling on people for advice, it becomes very easy. So that runs very well. On the arbitration space, obviously you have to have an arbitration secretary, you have to set yourself up with the systems so that keeps running. And on the advocacy space, same thing. You just have to have the right partners, the right people who understand your vision, who understand where you want to go, who are experienced enough so that they can buttress what it is that you're trying to do. And that way then you're able to spread your wings. We need to up our capacity as consultants, we need to up our capacities as even construction. Why should construction only go to certain kinds of people? We are also able. And especially when we have been in the consultancy space, what is it that you cannot do just to transcend to become, say, a contractor? You can actually do both because you understand how to organize a site, you understand how to organize, a contract, materials, quality checks, and all those things are things we do as consultants. Moving to this other side is not difficult. Actually, you become the best placed person to become a contractor. Many times you find our contractors, anybody can be a contractor. Actually, there's no qualification to become a contractor. But when you're in the space of consultancy, in the built environment, and then you become a contractor, first, number one, you're able to read the drawings, you're able to read, you already know the expectation, because those are things that you already understand, and there's no gap then in understanding and in communication. Sometimes some of the biggest challenges you find on site are communication gaps, where you're dealing with fundis on one side who don't have the qualifications of properly reading drawings, right? And this now can be mitigated when we have people who are trained in the space also taking up the construction space. It's something we really need to encourage ourselves as Kenyans, that it's time we pick this up. The space has been taken over by Chinese. They come with the advantages they have from China, building en masse. They come and, they import all their materials. But I can assure you, even with what we have managed to achieve in terms of numbers in 17 Losai, nothing stops us from being able to raise our capacities as Kenyans and being able to do these things and do them in good quality. I think now even you go to the university, you find as many young women as young men who are training in architecture. In fact, at master's level, the women, outnumber the men. These days when you go to sites, even the workers, you find women are doing also construction work. I think it's already demystified in my view, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that all of us can be able to participate in a very lucrative, space. So it used to be an issue. Now it's not an issue anymore. In fact, I don't need to be doing much more advocacy about it. When I go to mentor young students in the university, because I do that a lot, I do a lot of mentorships, and I like speaking to young people a lot. When I go to the university, in fact, my last engagement was about, a month ago at my university, at Jomo Kenyatta University. And I found the young women are doing very well. In fact, some of the projects that were outstanding, I can assure you 50-50, as many girls as the young men. And it was very refreshing to see that young girls have picked up science, what we call STEM, and they're running with it. And for us to encourage them then to really practice, not run away from the practice, come, let's roll up our sleeves, let's get our hands dirty, let's get this thing done. Women have certain advantages in terms of design over men, especially when we are looking at proportion of space, how we allocate proportion to space, and especially in the residential space. We tend to be stronger in how we organize a space. For very obvious reasons, we tend to be the ones who are the users of the space. So then we come with, you know, such advantages. And I can tell you now, like in the space of running an office, like I do, the retention, women have better retention as, you know, workforce, as people who you can invest in for future. So there are certain advantages that come with being a female in the space, which we really like to encourage young ladies not to fear to venture into the space. But otherwise, there was a time we were very few, and I'd walk into a site and I'm the only woman, and I'm the only one, and I'm chairing a site meeting. So it's a boardroom space, a site boardroom space, where I'm sitting at the head of the table as the only woman, and everybody in the room is a man. Those days were there. Those days were there when you'd walk into a site and there's not a single woman, other than the one making chapati and githeri outside. Everyone else was a man. And there were challenges to that. But those are not challenges we see anymore, and at least not in the sites that I run, and I'm happy about it. And I'm not afraid to ask. If I walk into a room and there are no women, I'm not afraid to ask, where is the other gender, you know? Why aren't our engineers and the others having, you know, infusing of the gender? But in the sites that we run, I have seen very good gender representation. It's possible to have luxury in an affordable house. That is the first biggest message that I want to send. And just because it's Ngara does not mean it cannot be luxurious at an affordable price. We want to change the skyline of the areas that are encountering urban renewal. Ngara is one of them. The roads are now done, there's sewer, there's electricity, there's everything. It is a stone throw away from city center. You can still have luxury at an affordable price. I want to imagine that the users are young people. There'll be young people who are starting off in their work life. They will need to be close to the city where they can easily run around, where it is easy and cheaper for them to move around. We will most likely have university students also living in here, because we have a couple of campuses and colleges in and around the city. So they will be the users. And chances are that the buyers will be people who are looking to make some rental income, or some young people who want to run some Airbnbs and make some extra income from wherever they are also working. So really that is the target market that we are looking at. If we have done it for our fellow clients, we can also do it ourselves. And I am hoping that Kenyans, we can begin to have some faith in ourselves. And if we don't have faith in ourselves, then we will not have a country for our children. We need to demonstrate that these things are doable. It takes hard work. It takes hard work. It takes commitment. It takes passion. What we have in our team is a lot of passion. We love the work that we do. We've done it for 20 years, and we are ready to start another 20-year journey, God willing, of now doing the actual work ourselves. And we want to use Kenyans because we have to up our capacity as Kenyans. This is some of the advocacy work that I am doing even in the arbitration space. Because what's happening is that Africa is opening up. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Areas Agreement that has allowed a lot of African countries to begin to trade amongst themselves. But as Africans, if we are not upping our capacity, the space is very easily being taken over by the Europeans, by the Chinese. We are worried that the Americans are coming in strong. We need to fight for our space. And the best way to do that is to just up our capacity, engage with a lot of integrity, and just work hard and do what needs to be done and the right thing. So I'm for creating capacity for ourselves. It is going to be 2 years. It's a site that is manageable, and we've already figured out how we can speed it up where we can with the contractor. It's a tight site, but also tight sites, there are ways of going around them. So the tightness does not have to slow you down. It's good that the market is evolving. The construction industry is really evolving. With the premixes, the companies that are doing premix are now more and more, so the prices are competitive. So as long as you're doing a premix and you have your modern scaffolding that can allow you to do several levels at a time, it becomes beautiful to move faster. So that's something we have discussed at length with our structural engineer, and with the contractor who's going to come on board, so that we can see how we can move it faster and faster. We want to spend quite a lot of time doing the finishes, because then we want a really fine finish, and that is where our focus is going to be. Pricing of such units is very delicate, because we are clear that we will have buyers who want to earn some rental income. And it's important for us that our buyers then get their value, because as we move from this project to the next and the next, we want to carry along, some faithful clients who are happy to invest in us and in our brand. So we've really taken time to strike the right balance of 3.5 million of each of these units. And it's a good price point. We've checked the rental income in the area, and we are sure you can get your returns of between 35,000 shillings to 40,000 shillings per month. If you're running an Airbnb, then definitely you will make a little bit more, because the Airbnbs are running for 3,000 shillings per day. If you can keep that retention, have a nice unit that is well taken care of, you're likely going to keep a good return customer base for the Airbnbs. I've seen that it is possible to get 80%, probably within a year of Airbnb, and that is some considerable good returns on rentals for these apartments. So we are keeping it at that price. There's concessions, of course, for the early birds who come. If you come right now and you want to buy a whole floor, then that is something we can discuss the price point for you and make it a bit sweeter, and see how you can, we can agree on a payment plan if you take up a whole level, which is about 11 units of them. But otherwise, we want to receive 20% deposit, and the rest of the money will be paid in 3 or 4 tranches throughout the life of the project, which is very important, because we want to create a cash flow to keep the units running. For mortgage buyers, we would want at least 30% upfront, and then the 70% can come later. Although we really want to encourage the cash buyer so that we can use that as a cash flow to run the project. So that's what it is. What is unique about Losai first is the team, that is myself and the rest. We have done this for 20 years, and we want to assure you as a developer that what we are promising you, we shall give you. We already have a track record, so you don't need to worry about whether, we shall give you what we have promised you. That I want to assure our buyers to come on board, and let's do this together. Let's be like partners. Let's walk this journey together. Let's not be afraid to build Kenyans as well. Let's not be afraid to build our own. It's time to build our own and to support our own. For the future, for the sake of the future of our country, but also just by the mere fact that we are able, and we've demonstrated it over a period of time, we are able, so come on board. Let's build this together. Let's become partners. Let's move from this to the next, and we'll have value for our money. As we put it in, I am promising that it will come back, and then we can move to another project and another one.